By Teer Hirschman, media consultant, and Dr. Michelle Stein, Teer, political rhetoric expert, among many other things. Thanks for joining us both this morning. Michelle, first of all, looking at these 71% voter turnout, maybe it's surprising a lot of us who have been through the cycle a few times already this year. What does that say to you, that people showed up and actually cared this time around?
It has been a roller coaster year for Israel, and rhetorically, it has been a disaster. I can tell you that we've heard over and over the same messages again and again and again, and people got so tired, but at the end, the call that they received from Netanyahu did its action, and he was, it's quite amazing that at his age, at 71, he has more hunger than all the three generals together.
It felt that way in these last few weeks, at least. It was tangible. I mean, he was canvassing the country. So his energy was apparent, you think, to all?
Very apparent, and it felt as if he wants it more. And the field was working a lot more actively for him and with his guidance, and it felt that on the so-called left, people were kind of tired, didn't want to hear anything until the very last minute. People kind of went on a news diet. Gantz put his boxing gloves on a little too late, and Netanyahu realized right after the second election that that's it, he's fighting, and he has no problem going low, as you said. And the things that even happened yesterday with the Likud campaign, where they put out a movie about Gantz and misquoted him.
It was actually fake news.
Absolutely
they
fake
just
news.
They just cut in the
as they please.
The
exactly.
clip saying, "Don't vote for blue and white," essentially.
Yes,
so they spliced
of course,
it.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yet people see this, and it makes impact, and they're on their way to vote. And at the end, when you're standing behind the curtain, it's emotional. It's all emotional. The rhetoric, people talk and talk and talk, but at the end, when you're there alone with yourself, you decide, who am I going to trust? Who do I think can do the job? And it's more emotional than anything else.
I think that is actually, I think it's more rational than emotional. I think that when people saw the very effective campaign of the Likud party, which saying that Gantz has no government without the Arab list, I think it moved something with them. I think they asked themselves, what will happen? It's not emotional. It's not emotional. It's rational. Because if you try to, I'll say something harsh. If you count the bodies of Israeli that were affected by terror acts at the long reign of Netanyahu, you see that there are less dead Israelis in that term, and you see that people, and you see that you have less terror, you see that less people are dying because of it, and then it's a rational thing. And if people are saying,
you can check any type of research, and any type of research shows that at the end, when people put their vote in the ballot, it is always emotional.
But this is something that is very
rational, and at the end,
it's always so patronizing.
To what?
Left-wingers always say. Left-wingers always say, well, those right-wingers, when they come to the ballot,
I didn't say right, I said
emotional,
everybody.
Because they're emotional people, they're warm.
But you're saying that it's the lefties, so-called. Everything is divided thanks to Netanyahu to left and right. We have left people and right people. There's either black or white. There's nothing in between. And this is untrue. And when a left person stands behind there and decides it's emotional, and when a right person does.
And when Benny Begin stands in front of a camera just before the election, and he says you cannot vote to Netanyahu.
He calls it Machal Mifleget,
the immunity party of Netanyahu.
Right.
But this is what we said. This is what we said before. As soon as Netanyahu lifted that weight from his shoulders, as soon as Netanyahu said, "Well, I'm going to stand court," people said, "Okay, we can support him."
Fantastic.
And that's why emotional too. It's not emotional. I think it's rational.
70% of all the verbal and nonverbal messages that we perceive in any type of communication situation is emotional. And that's a fact. And therefore, even any one of us, even now that we're communicating, now everything is in life is emotional. And at the end, people don't choose rationally. They choose like their grandfather does and like their family does, and from their heart. It's usually done from the heart.
This has been a year of campaigns, basically a perpetual campaign here. So we've had a lot of chance to see the two frontrunners on stage, in the public, basically presenting their cases. So a lot of chance to analyze the rhetoric. What do you see from, really, let's talk about Benny Gantz and Netanyahu in comparison here.
And the main thing that we can learn about rhetoric is when we look at America and see what Trump is doing, there's a large or a big chance that Netanyahu will be doing something similar. And something that has changed with Netanyahu in this election versus the other two were a few things. One thing, he physically came to the studio to be interviewed, whereas in the past he would be interviewed from his comfortable framing at home. And also rallies. Netanyahu has been going out and meeting people like never before, and this unconditional type of connection between the people, physically seeing the leader, has a great effect on the love that is he managed to raise.
Prior to the April election, it was hard to conceive of someone that could emerge and effectively defeat Netanyahu at the polls. Gantz engendered some of that hope. Now, after these three campaigns, is it fair to say, do you feel that that situation, that is the situation, that there currently is no one that could have unseated Netanyahu?
They should form a unity government, because most of the people are in the center. And these are the two, all continuously throughout the three battles, there are always the two long lines, almost similar, maybe this time a little less, but in general, most of the public is right in the middle and not on the right or on the left as Netanyahu likes to frame it.
A short time we have left here before the next break here. Looking at the joint list success story, at least in terms of the numbers, the turnout, where do they fit into the narrative, Michelle, in your eyes? Was there a mismanagement by, say, blue and white or even Likud towards the Arab parties?
How did he call it in English? Noharim lakalpiyot. The Arabs are heading in flocks, right? So they switch the semantics. Look how important are semantics. Semantics also create an emotional value to every word we use. And Netanyahu is king in rhetoric, and he's been practicing for so long, and he puts all these newcomers to politics. They have still a lot to learn, and they should learn from some of his rhetoric techniques, and some of them we should perhaps find new ones to replace them, since they're based mainly on fear, and which is also an emotion. At the end, rhetoric is what makes it or breaks it.